forgot you always have your volume turned down. Hi guys, welcome to Weekly Travel Updates. It's the middle of July. We're halfway through our year. Man, I don't have very much sun, but I am enjoying this warm weather. Well, we are here in Burlington, North Carolina. Our office, Action Travel, is located in downtown Mebane, and I'm Melinda Fargas. We started Action Travel in 1990. We just turned 33 years old, and it's been a wild ride. But travel is finally back. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and with some of these 4th of July deals still out there are still deals to be had. I'll get to that in a minute, but let me tell you what has gone on this week. Well, probably the most drastic was the fatality of firefighters. And I didn't realize that there was like a C team of firefighters who come to the rescue of ships. Cruise ships, cargo ships, ferry ships, all kinds of ships. And there was a cruise ship in Europe. And I don't know if you've seen these before. Say 20 years ago, it was quite popular. But there would be ferries that would be cargo ships that would also carry passengers. And you could get on them really inexpensively. The training of the C team, which is like another branch of Coast Guard, but they're just firefighters. They are trained in cargo ships. They're trained in cruise ships. They're trained in ferries. But one of the articles that I read said that this was the first time many of them had been on a mixed class ship where all three of these are on one ship. It did look like a large cargo ship, but about halfway back, you could see that there were vehicles, and then it was solid on the back, say third of the ship, and that must be where the cabins are. But there were more than a dozen firefighters that were injured, and 2 firefighters lost their lives. A 45-year-old, and in honor, I will say it's Mr. Augusta Atkin, and a 49-year-old, Mr. Wayne Brooks. Pray for these families. Firefighters are a special breed of men, and some women now. So, but we do honor them. And they got caught on a deck between deck 11 and 12, and just were unable to get out. And with cars on board, it sounded like there were cars once the fire started that exploded because cars have gas in them. So anyway, the other fire this week was on July 7th. A MSC ship. It's their luxury brand. It's the Meraviglia Discovery, and it was in Amber Cove, and it caught fire. Amber Cove is a private port for MSC, and there's not a lot of commercial traffic there. But long story short, nobody was injured. It was a safety panel that what are they saying? They're recalling it so that it can't be used on future ships, but they didn't discover this until after the fire. When there's a fire on board, and depending on the size, engineers have to examine the ship and make sure of its seaworthiness. And being in Amber Cove, there were no engineers of that sort there, so they had to fly them over. When they flew them over to Amber Cove, or to the closest airport about an hour away, they decided the ship was not seaworthy. And so this is a, I said it was an MSC ship. The Meraviglia is not an MSC. It's a TUI cruise, which is a European line. And so doing the right thing, they are flying 1,800 passengers back from the Dominican Republic to get back to the UK on their dime. And if this was a 2-week cruise, then they're refunding 1 week. If you were on a 1-week cruise, they're giving you 100% future cruise credit. And it sailed on July 2nd. It didn't happen till the 7th, but they are giving them a full week. I think that has something good to say for them. Tell me what you think in the comments. Then on the 17th, the inaugural sailing of, this is where MSC is coming in, the inaugural sailing of the new deluxe class from MSC was supposed to sail. And July 17th is like next week. And the same fire panels that were discovered in this other issue are on the MSC ships because of European parts, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how they knew that, but they have delayed the inaugural sailing. Now, this is a luxury brand, so the ship looks beautiful. I can't wait to hear some of the first reviews, but the new inauguration date will not be until August 21st. Once you fail the fire safety, you have to wait 30 days before traveling. That's new, or that's interesting. I'm not saying it's new. For a new ship, that's unusual, I thought. And then I'm sure that you saw on the news, because I don't know of any news station who hasn't carried it this week, that the Ruby Princess hit a pier in San Francisco. It's a popular gathering area, and she sustained enough injuries to the ship's hull. It was like on a back corner, like if you backed out into a parking spot and you accidentally hit the right corner, that's what the ship did. It looks to be about 7 foot by 4 feet tall, and it didn't pierce it didn't look like it pierced the exterior of the ship, but you can definitely see the damage. So what that did is that delayed the ship's arrival back into port. They sit in port. They let passengers get off of the ship. They let the new passengers get on the ship, but the ship didn't go anywhere. So it was supposed to leave on Saturday. It didn't go anywhere. It was supposed to leave yesterday at 4:30, and it sounds like it did. So just interesting turn of events. Now they're headed to Alaska. Oh, speaking of Alaska, I told you last week about the scheduled strikes that are very prevalent in Europe, and Canada has listed their strikes. Well, for Canada, you have to vote on a strike, and then you can strike 30 days after the vote has been approved. So the Canadian workers, I'm not sure who all they encompass, but I know that it is all of the marine area, all of those workers, the ones who load the food on the ship, take the bag off the ship, put baggage on the ship, that sort of thing, the longshoremen. They are on strike. Now, some were said to have they've already made arrangements. Your bags are not going to be delayed. Everybody be there on time. Well, the very first weekend, the call for bags was not until 10 a.m. So I don't know if you're used to getting off of a cruise ship. It is very normal. Like when I have a group, I say, pick us up at 9:30. I don't want to be rushed, but by 9:30, everybody's off with their bags. Well, now in Vancouver this weekend, the call for bags did not start until 10 a.m. So for passengers who booked their own flights or who did not have travel insurance and certainly are going to miss their flights if they book before like 1 p.m., that would be a bad way to start off your day. It doesn't look like there was any advance notice, but as passengers were disembarking, their baggage was not stacked in that mountain of luggage that you see. It's like usually by each deck, you can go find your luggage. Well, they were still not unloaded. And according to all that I can read, they've come to an agreement, but the agreement is a 10 a.m. call for bags. So I don't know whether that means that they will let you stay in your rooms a little bit longer, or likely shoo you out of your rooms and say, carry all your stuff, go have breakfast, hang out in the breakfast bar or in one of the restaurants. And surely they're not going to make you get off the ship and have to wait downstairs. Although I will tell you that most of the time, new cruisers have already started reboarding the ship by 10 a.m. So an interesting turn of events. We will see. Our sailing for Alaska is going to start in Seward, and we are going to come south. So it won't matter if we get off the ship and we don't start our tour until just after 10. This year, we're going to fly out of Seattle. And so when we get off the ship, we will get our luggage, we'll get on our bus, and we'll go to Canada, from Canada Place over to Stanley Park, which is not very far. It's one of the coolest parks, though. And it has, the redwoods that they have one hewed out with pictures of where cars used to drive through it. They don't allow that anymore. I guess we've become pretty bad drivers. Then they have the largest gathering of totem poles in all of British Columbia, right there at Stanley Park. And then if you have been to Denmark, there is a mermaid statue sitting out on a rock. And it was a story of a mermaid who was waiting for her sailor to come home. And he never made it home. She froze to the rock and became part of it, is the story. Anyway, another copy of that is right in Stanley Park, and we stop and some of us jump out and grab pictures and such. And from there, we're going to take off south towards Seattle. And guess what I found us to do? There is a balloon festival that takes off on that afternoon. And so we'll drive that beautiful drive from British Columbia down and cross the border into Washington State. And we're going to go where we can watch the balloons take off. And once we watch them take off for the afternoon, we'll head to the airport and we'll fly home. I thought that was a super cool way to end the trip. And I was really thankful that we found something exciting to do to fill the day, because normally we fly right back out of Vancouver. But we've got travelers going to a few different airports with this group in September. And it just was not conducive to doing that, which meant we'd have to stay another night in Vancouver. And we're already 12 days. So for some of us, including me, it was a little bit of a stretch. So we're going to go out of Seattle, and I think it's going to be a great solution. And the price was better too. Speaking of Alaska, if you have been to Alaska and you did one of the trips that go up and turn around and come back to Vancouver or Seattle, you might have had opportunity to travel on the White Pass Railroad. It is a steam locomotive and a true treasure from the past. They go out of Skagway and they go all the way up into high country of Canada. They go up, and it's just really so you can see the area and kind of the terrain and lay of the land, because it's really, really different. And most of the cruise ports, you're staying right against the water. So there's not a lot of Alaska that you see. So this is a cool way to do it. Anyway, this strike that I'm telling you about, well, it looks like the White Pass Railroad is going to be part of its demise. Right now, it's not traveling at all. If you're doing our cruise in September, we will have already been on one of the top 5 train trips in the whole world from Anchorage to Denali. So we won't miss out. But if you have a shorter sailing, or again, one of the sailings that are round trip out of the south, that's usually one of the most excursions of demand. And because it's a whole train, it's not likely to sell out. But at this juncture, it's just not going to be available. One of the most exciting things I read today, and I would have put it in a picture yesterday if I had read it yesterday. This weekend, the aurora lights are going to be visible from 17 United States states, Alaska being one of them. You guys, I am just so jazzed because, we chose to go to Alaska in September this year, mainly because we wanted the opportunity to see the aurora lights. And last year, they didn't start until August. So, still iffy. But in September, when we're going to be in Denali, they were in full sight. But I cannot remember ever in July them being visible. And every U.S. state across the northern Canadian border, every one of those states are included. But even as far south as like Nebraska, Missouri, Illinois, those could be visible. It's the 12th and 13th of this week. So if you're in those states, or somebody who is, it's most likely that they'll be best visible from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So let them know. That's what I would do if I had a friend that had the opportunity. Okay, and I heard this week cruising is like pizza. If it's good, it's really good. But if it's bad, well, it's still not bad. That might be said of the Carnival Horizon this week. There is a TikTok guy who took pictures of bed bugs on the Carnival Horizon. I've not been on that ship. It's about a 10-year-old ship, maybe, of the Vista class. And he peeled back the mattress. Maybe he dropped something back there. I don't know. He peeled back the mattress and said that they were bed bugs. The long and the short of it is Carnival has more ships, serves more travelers than any other cruise line out there. And while they're not always top of my list, I do feel like this is an isolated incident. Do you not think that if there were bed bugs in any kind of regularity, it would be all over social media? It just would. So what really aggravated this guy was that he had 3 cabins on the Horizon. I didn't verify the facts. This was all his post. He said that he spent nearly $15,000 for the 1 week sailing for 3 cabins with his family, and that it had been completely ruined because of this. And It didn't say what day of the week that he found them, but he did say that after a few days that they started seeing bites on them. And when they went down to the infirmary, that he said it looked like bed bugs, and that's when a member of the staff and the traveler went up there and found them. So it is unfortunate, but probably the most insulting thing is they offered him a $200 shipboard credit and offered to move his room. So what do you think of that? I was a little surprised. I'm just a little surprised. Yeah, I would have thought it would have been more than that, especially if you had 3 cabins sailing. Anyway, this guy was really ragging all over Carnival. So I just thought that I would share it with you in case you had not seen it yet. Do you know that over the 4th of July week, that TSA broke all records of any holiday travel? That is fascinating that we have that many travelers. Now, remember how many flights were canceled, because there were more than 1,100 canceled that were just United. And that was on Friday before the weekend of the 4th. So, but even through all of that, the largest numbers of U.S. passengers traveled in a holiday week. Wow. That's really saying something. I can tell you our numbers are way up. We are super busy. We could fit another couple on Alaska, but we do have space for Hawaii. Alaska is September 12th to the 23rd, and Hawaii is October 20th to the 28th. Both of them are cruises, and the best thing about cruising with us is when we take a group, I go along and we take care of the details for you. So it's just like having a concierge there for you. Now, once we get to the ship, you're pretty much on your own until we get off the ship. And then I charter a coach and we do private excursions because we might not want to do what the ship wants to do. And I promise we'll get you back in time. Okay. On to just some other interesting things. Thinking about Hawaii, do you know that Oahu released its first ever raised rail system? So they are building a rail system, and it's going to be above the traffic. I'm not sure what they're going to do when they start allowing those $300,000 flying cars, because if you just have more to navigate, I don't know. How many of you saw that? Did you see that $300,000? It looks like the Jetsons. It's kind of rounded at both ends. I thought it was cool, but $300,000, golly. And how are they going to, man, that's a can of worms. We won't go there. Okay, so if you saw the news this weekend, you saw severe flooding in the Northeast, and it has continued through the weekend. Lots of flights, hundreds of flights were canceled. Amtrak service has been delayed or canceled. Some rail areas were impassable for flooding. And so we hope that all of that settles out this week, but it has been a time. And I hope that nobody had to connect through New York City this weekend, because that's where a lot of the cancellations were. All right, speaking about New York, let's talk about American Airlines and JetBlue, and then American Airlines and JetSmart. All right, so American Airlines and JetBlue kind of code-shared service because JetBlue was a Northeast regional. They wanted to come up and down the Eastern Seaboard, so they started a code share with American. And, you know, where American, a lot of their routes are out of Kennedy or Miami, they were having a hard time getting the passengers there, and JetBlue offered all these nonstops to Miami and to the New York City airports. So it seemed like a great match. This has been going on now for probably, I do not know, 5 years maybe. And what happens in this merger is it says that they share revenue for New York Kennedy, New York LaGuardia, New York JFK, Boston. Seems like there were 5. Anyway, for the major airports in the Northeast. And if they revenue share those airports, I guess there hadn't been much of a problem, but JetBlue has been looking to expand. And as long as they co-chair with American, they're only meeting American flight, and then you're flying on American, and they want you to fly JetBlue to JetBlue. So they are going to buy Spirit Airlines, or that is what's in the works now. And the Justice Department just wants the alliance with American Airlines and JetBlue. They want that alliance terminated. What that means to you is if you have traveled JetBlue and your miles are with American Airlines Advantage miles, then they're going to give you a limited amount of time for you to carry out whatever reservations you have purchased, and they're going to terminate that agreement. And it should leave the doors open for JetBlue and Spirit to merge, and that will be a different ballgame because JetBlue first started out as a low-fare carrier, and Spirit definitely is a low-fare carrier. So anxious to see how that merger would take place and how it would affect us. Spirit Airlines have a lot of add-on cost, like Frontier. They charge for bags, they charge for food, they charge for drinks, they charge for carry-ons. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. Did you see where Biden is in the UK? He's on a 3-country trip. So I was anxious to see if there were any strikes going on today, but he's there and seems like he has made it safe. I want to tell you about MSC. They've got a really, really popular sale. MSC is not for everybody. So that first. They get new cruisers a lot of times because of their price. It costs about $100 a person a day when they're on sale. They also allow you to take children up to age 18 free. 18 and under are considered a child on MSC. So all you pay are the port taxes. What I found, and this was at least 10 years ago, was that it was just too European for us. It did not have a lot of activity at night, and that hasn't changed a great deal. Things still are pretty closed about 10, 11, midnight. So it's not like being on Royal Caribbean or Carnival or Norwegian, where sometimes you see clubs and things open into the wee hours of the morning. But what I will tell you is because they're allowing all these kids, even though the food was rated very good, better than they expected for the price, if you're in the yacht club, and they kind of have a 2-tiered system, like the yacht club has its own floor, its own restaurant, its own everything. And if you have suites, then you can go into the yacht club and it's inclusive. So the yacht club is very laid back, no kids, because kids aren't allowed. But anywhere else on the ship, there were kids. And there were kids in the discos at night, like in the clubs. There were kids in the performance shows. And so Gary Bembridge is one of the YouTubers that I watch, and I've watched him for years. And he said, virtually, there was nowhere that you could not go that you did not see kids. And on other lines, especially in lounges, at night, there are nobody's allowed in under age 21. But you could see them there. I saw his pictures. So that was interesting. What I would say is the ships are built to hold about 4,800 people. And the ship that he was on, which was the MSC Virtuoso, one of the newest ships, it is built that if there are 2 people per cabin, there's 4,800 passengers. But on his ship, because of all of the children that are allowed free, there were 6,300 passengers. And he said, outside of the yacht club, everything had lines. And while you're paying a smaller price per person per day, if you don't want the extras, then you could be very satisfied. But if you go and you stroll down and you stop at the pastry shop or crepe shop, that's not included. Much like Johnny Rockets would be on Royal Caribbean. The pastry shops, the coffee shops, there were several venues that were food offerings. And they said, they look pretty and it smells good, but it seems like any way that they can, they're just looking to see how much more you could spend. Remember the days when there were always photographers, and every time you went to dinner, they wanted to make your picture? Well, they're back on the MSC. They had about 4 backdrops each evening. Wasn't just on formal night, each evening. And naturally, he didn't take any, but he said that you weren't hassled. He said they were politely encouraging you each night headed to the dining room to have your picture made. So just a little FYI, there are families who, and people who went with us on MSC, it was a church group, and they weren't looking for wild parties, anything like that. But because it's a European line, your announcements, for instance, that was probably one of the most annoying. It can be repeated in up to 6 languages based on who is on the ship. They're going to do Italian. They're going to do English. On our sailing, they did German and they did Spanish, but they can also include French. They can include Portuguese because that's their largest group of travelers. So it would be kind of not fun every morning to hear your morning announcements in all 6 languages. So that's the cruise news and travel news today. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you have interest in Alaska or Hawaii. Alaska, I'm telling you, our brochure price was $6,400. Royal Caribbean's brochure price, not having the inclusions, but just the same numbers of days, the same number of, or the same type of ship cabins, and they're doing just the regular railroad, and our group is doing Gold Star service on the Alaska Railroad, but their price is $6,700 per person. Ours was $64,000, and I was proud of it because ours includes excursions in the ports. It includes your travel insurance, and you get an escort the whole time. You can go with us anytime we're going, and you don't have to hang with us if you would rather make your own way. It's just easy. Anyway, that price is almost $1,000 less right now. So if it has been on your bucket list, I would love to take you to Alaska. I don't plan on making this a repeat trip. I'm going specifically to take Mom. There's still enough other places that I want to see. So come along with us. reach out to me. You can call us 336-222-TRIP, or you can email us at info@actiontravelinc.com. Message me on Facebook. Hit me up on LinkedIn. We're pretty around. And we're in the office on Fridays and Saturdays from 11 until 5 in downtown Mebane. Oh my goodness, I forgot to tell you, this weekend is Christmas in July. And I was going to invite Sherry Duraco tonight to be on the program because she does Mary Kay, and she is going to have a promotions table out there with Mary Kay products. And her husband does all kinds of wooden items, and he has started making these really cool collegiate cutting boards. They're not just collegiate, but I happen to love the one that says Duke. Mom probably likes the one that says Carolina. We're a divided house, but it's okay. Speaking of which, she's doing great. If you watch me on Facebook, you might have seen me post a picture of my family in California. That is my stepsister, Kathy, and beside of her is Marlene Fowler, who is my stepmom, and Timothy Thurman and Jill Thurman Netzley. And please, please hold them up in prayer this week. Marlene turns 91 this Thursday on July 13th. And she so wants to live until her birthday. And this weekend I was at the verge of flying out, but I talked to her, and it really just gave me a lot of peace. She said, I'm just tired of being in the hospital, tired of these doctors poking on me. I know where I'm going. I will see you on the other side. So I do covet your prayers for them, and thank you so much. One more prayer request. Norman and Judy Fargas, my in-laws, were in a car accident this past week. Thursday or Friday of last week, and Judy broke her sternum, and there's nothing they can do for it, and she's in a lot of pain. So if you think about it, just hold Judy Fargas up in prayer also. Guys, I appreciate you. I love you. I'm here to serve you. Let me know how we can help, and until next time, ciao. Bye.